I'm Marcia Lehman, and I'm a Knox County Master Gardener. Today, it's dormant pruning time, and this is not a whole lot to look at, but it does have new growth starting at the base, so it is time to prune this plant. Now, you may say, what plant is this? It has an interesting story. You'll see in the handout that we refer to it as Gaura, and we give a botanical name. It is commonly called Gaura in the industry. Other common names are bee blossom and wandflower, but the interesting botanical thing about this plant is, as folks were doing plant DNA research, this plant got reclassified. It used to be in the evening primrose family until they did some DNA testing, and they have now put it in its own genus, and so it is now Gaura, as used as a common name, and the botanical name is Oenothera lindheimeri. So that's a mouthful. In the trade, it is still called Gaura, but just know that due to plant DNA, it got reclassified from the evening primrose family into the Oenothera family. It is a clump type growing plant. It's a pretty plant in the summer. As I say, right now it's not real attractive, but it's a fairly easy plant to grow, but plant it where you want it because it has a big taproot and does not transplant well. So get it where you want it to start and then leave it there. The one comment I would make about it is you'll love it in the summertime. The maintenance of it is pretty simple, as you'll see here today, but it does need attention at least twice a year and maybe a third time. So where we are is in late winter, when we're going to clean up these dead stems, and then in late spring you're going to watch how the new growth is going, and if it's leggy you just go in and you shorten it. And then after it flowers, you want to trim it back and you may get some more blooms. And then in the fall, you want to come in and remove the spent flower spikes. So there's at least 3 times, and if the new growth gets leggy for whatever reason, then, you know, in late spring you have this additional time. So it's going to be at least twice, probably 3, and maybe even 4 times a year that you're going to have to pay attention to this plant. But none of them are hard to do. It's just one of those you're going to have to do it multiple times. So let me put my handout aside and we'll get started here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want a good clean view of this. So I'm just going to take my little hand rake here. You can do it with your gloved hands as well. But I want to be able to find the basal clump of this. Now, I should also add, I'm at the home of another master gardener who has just told me that after it bloomed, she did give it a bit of a trim and it rebloomed a second time very nicely. This, you know, is not particularly attractive, but all this spent vegetation actually protects that basal clump during the winter. So resist the temptation to shear it back in the fall and wait till it's truly dormant, late winter. And in fact, now I can come in, and as I say, this task becomes pretty easy because we're just going to take, well, we're just going to snip all these as low as we can go. So what did I make? 7 or 8 snips, and there's the whole plant. And then let's zoom in on this basal clump, and I can clean up a couple little things here, get this out of the way. And you can see it had started to put out some green growth before we had a little bit of a cold spell, but it's not dead at all. And now I can clean up some of those stems just a little bit more, not a whole lot. And this is a classic case where it's late in the winter, so this is coming out of dormancy with some green growth, and pruning stimulates growth. So this should come back and it'll flower beautifully this summer. And again, check the handout because If it starts to grow and get really leggy, we'll just give it a little trim and make the stems a little stockier to hold up the weight of the flowers that come later in the summer, which you will love. So there's another one right here beside me. So I'm just going to scooch back and we're going to do the same thing. So as I say, cleaning these up is not a really hard task, but you're going to have to do a little maintenance on them 3, maybe 4 times a year. But any one of those times is not a big task. And this time of year, the dormant pruning is probably the easiest thing. You just come in and clean it up. There we go. Second one's done. And there's a third one back here in the corner, and we're going to do the same thing. I love plants that you can cut back like this and they just regrow each year. So if you're new to pruning, this is a good one to start on because it's pretty hard to screw it up. So there we go. It's got a nice green sprout there. Clean that one up a little bit. There's a little bit of brown. So there's 3 plants done in what? 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. And then I'll come back and put some of these leaves around again because we may get another cold spell or 2. But these plants are in a foundation bed, so we've got some heat coming from the brick. So we're in good shape. So that's Gaura. I had never heard of it before I did the research to do this pruning video. But look for it in the industry. And as I say, even though its botanical name has changed, it's been reclassified, it is still commonly referred to as Gaura by the folks in the industry. So that's it for Gaura. Hope you learned something. Go out and clean it up. It's late winter, dormant pruning time. Thank you for joining us today.